Howdy, folks! Happy Monday. We're back. There is some hockey news, even though it's 85 degrees outside. And I have to say, I'm one of those weird people who does not like hot weather. And of course, we don't get much of it in the Buffalo area. So for that 5 or 6 weeks when it's sticky and 80 and 85, and it's very humid in Buffalo because we're right on Lake Erie,
you don't embrace it at all.
It's miserable. I hate it. I liked the weather up until as long as it wasn't raining. If it was sunny and like 70, it was great. And that's why I love the fall, because the fall there's a little breeze. It's sort of sweater weather. You can sleep better. And out in the day, it's like up there. Yep.
With a mouse stick. Relax.
It never fails. But no, and like. For here, everybody was, there was a July 4th thing down the waterfront, and I've been down there in years past, and it's like you get 20,000 people in a cramped space, and it's like that's like the worst place that I would ever, I've been down there before. It's like horrible. I'd rather be like further away so I could watch the fireworks and drive away. And not be.
Yeah, I get that. Like, so you're not jammed in. I get that. I've done that a few times. I mean, I've watched them in Manhattan on the bridge. Like, I've seen some great fireworks, Millennium fireworks. In the winter, though. That was interesting. On a skating rink, I was skating all night, and then we saw the fireworks that was under the Ben Franklin Bridge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've seen some really good situations, but I get the escape hatch part. I do.
Yeah, and on top of the hot weather, this could be among that week in between, or the 2 weeks in between Super Bowl, the Championship Series and Super Bowl, when the NHL and the NBA hold their All-Star break. This could be one of the worst times of the year because there's nothing going on other than the Major League All-Star game. There's no basketball, no hockey, unless the news we're going to talk about. The NFL hasn't started training camp. And now Major League Baseball is shut down for 3 or 4 days, so we can watch a bunch of guys hit home runs from with their dad throwing them the ball.
Like, yeah, but listen, there's still a talent to that. I still think it's fun to watch the long shots. I'm pulling for Pete Alonso. I still think it's him or Jock Peterson. I do think Alonso can take the whole thing, though. I do, because he's just got legit power. Like, he very rarely hits them cheap. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I've seen more than one cheap Alonso homer this whole year. He's already set the Met rookie record. He's already gone beyond the Met record at a half season for Dave Kingman. Right. The slow part about that is Kingman broke his thumb in the second half, and he was out for the rest of the year after that. He was on a pace, like a Babe Ruth kind of pace at the time.
Right.
Or at least people thought he was because of his power. So, look, if Alonso hits 50, 55 homers, I'm thrilled. I get that the homer totals this year are inflated. You got 3 guys with 30 at the break. Mm-hmm. I get it. But still, home run derby's fun.
I just – I guess. I mean, I'm looking forward to them coming back and games being meaningful games being played. I don't even know. Does the home field advantage in the World Series still pertain to the victory in the All-Star game, or did they do away with that?
I think they did away with that. I'm 99% sure. And I'll watch some of the All-Star game because the Mets have 3 guys in it. Actually, the first post I saw on this was a website called Met Police, so I'm going to give him credit. With Alonso going, he's the first baseman since Keith Hernandez to go for the Mets. So that's interesting. But they have 3 guys, and so at least like the All-Star game is all I got, man. Once it goes to regular season, there's no more meaningful games.
Well, and I heard your buddy Joe Beningo on WFAN radio this morning saying that the Mets should A, fire Callaway, and B, trade Diaz, the reliever, who they took on Robinson Cano's $35 billion salary to get, and because the guy's blown 6 saves. It's just,
and Beningo's crazy because Jarred Kelenic was in that deal, and he was batting 5th yesterday in the futures games. He's the 16th best rookie, according to whether it's Sporting News or Baseball Prospectus or whoever it is, Baseball America. I'm not thrilled about that trade, but I can't trade the guy yet. They
Right.
can't do it.
Well, I have to say,
he just has to figure it out here.
and I have to say this before we start talking about hockey. In watching some Yankees Tampa Bay Rays games this weekend, I noticed one thing. Everybody on these teams has at least 10 home runs.
Yeah.
Even guys like Tommy Pham, who's not a power hitter, or Diaz or Willie Adames, like every guy that came up, like every guy that was in the
flattened laces, it's the pitchers can't get a grip on it.
It's absolutely terrible. It's like when you have legitimate power hitters hitting 40, 50 home runs, that's the norm.
Yeah.
But when middle infielders are hitting 20 home runs, Brett Gardner is a limited fourth outfielder, and he's got 14 home runs.
Yeah, no, it's a little crazy, but I'll live with it. If that's what the fans want, that's fine.
I don't know how the fans want it.
You did bury the lead. I mean, our women's soccer team won back-to-back titles. I don't care if you don't like about the anthem or whatever. I'm not sure if you do or don't. I don't know if you're one of those guys. Okay.
I didn't. Okay.
I watched it. It was exciting.
I give them full credit. I'm glad that they won. I'm proud as an American that they did. I understand, because I didn't watch it, that one of the players did a Colin Kaepernick. If they want to have political expression, fine. We know that the president has made a political football out of this because he's drumming up his base. I'm so tuned out of the whole political bull crap that I just wanted to avoid it.
Yeah,
but I'm glad that they won, and I wish that I'm just saying this. This is not a sexist comment. I just wish the men would be as good as the women are.
Yeah, no, that's not a sexist comment. And the interesting thing is, again, the men are going to, if they were ever to win, they would get 1.1 million, and the women get 250,000. Like,
yeah, that's crap. That's crap.
Yeah, because the women are bringing in more revenue than the men. Actually, the jersey sales, whatever you call their sweat, their jerseys, they're driving through the roof. Actually, and some guys went to the website and tried to buy their jerseys, and they couldn't. They just don't have the function available. Probably because nobody's ever done it before for a male to order one of
a men's size of a Alex Morgan jersey, and believe me,
you could get a men's U.S. women's jersey, right? But you have to get it personalized. They didn't have them made up for men's sizes, but now they're even getting men interested to the point where they're buying them.
Sure.
So, yeah. So if you look at it that way, that they're making money hand over fist for,
and they should get part of that.
Yeah,
they should. All right, let's get started. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, July 8th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello in balmy Buffalo.
Yeah, you're hotter than us today. We're like 72 here.
And this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Now let's start with Buffalo and things Buffalo, because there was a signing over the weekend. One of the more prominent free agents still left unsigned, Marcus Johansson, who signed a 2-year, $9 million deal, $4.5 million AAV with the Sabres. He had a conference call this morning. I listened in on it as I was working out at the gym, and I have to say,
that's a good drop there, Mike. As I was working out at the gym.
Yeah. Okay. But no, I didn't want to misrepresent that I was on the conference call. I just wanted, I did listen to it, and I wanted to get the skinny on Johansson, and he said he was very impressed with Ralph Kruger. But the one thing that was interesting, and if you look, Jason Botterill with the Sabres, I mean, he's been on a quest to upgrade, especially at forward, because their forwards, other than Eichel and Skinner last year, and maybe Sam Reinhart, were not very deep. We're not very talented.
Right.
And they have now added Jimmy Vesey through a trade, and they have signed Marcus Johansson. Now, I think those are two pretty good ads, but Johansson indicated that he has played most of the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years on the left side, And the left side right now on the Sabres is pretty strong with Skinner and VC and now Johansson. And he was asked by a number of reporters whether he can play center. And he played center with Washington and he played center in Sweden. And I get the feeling, Russ, that maybe that's what is intended here, is that he's going to play second line center for the Sabres.
Yeah, I think to start he will. I mean, look, he'll get you 13, 14 goals, maybe 15, 35, 45 points in that range. Adding VC gives you another 15 goals. So they've added goals. What puzzles me, and I don't want Adam to take this the wrong way because he's in the chat room and he's thrilled that we're talking Sabres. Why are Sabres fans saying, here's what we're going to do next? What are we going to do next? I think they're done. I don't think they're doing anything next.
Yeah, I think a lot of Sabres fans and
free agency, I'm saying.
Yes, no, I think they're pretty much done free agent wise. I mean, there could be a Ristolainen trade, but I think if it was going to happen, it probably would have happened by now, unless there are teams sort of like as a fallback after Gardner gets signed that maybe they go towards Ristolainen and maybe they make an offer that the Sabres can't refuse. But what I look at here is, and I could be wrong, but last year the successful combo was Skinner and Eichel. Skinner scored a career high 40 goals. Eichel had a really good year, but I get the feeling, and this is just an educated guess, that they got VC and Eichel are buds. Mm-hmm. And I think that they
trained together, I believe.
What's that?
Who trained together, I believe.
Who trained together. I have a weird feeling what they're going to try to do, because they were basically a one-line offensive team last year. Yeah. That you might see them put VC and Eichel together, maybe with Sam Reinhart on the number one line, and then number two, we would have Skinner with Johansson. And, it could be Olofsson. It could be, maybe they move Middlestat to the wing. I think that they're going to try to spread out their offense a little bit. And I was talking to a Sabre fan about this. He's like, oh, my God, you can't break up Skinner and Eichel. That's the only – no, you have to have two lines that score. A team that has only one line that can score, other than Colorado, they're not successful. So you need to diversify your offense.
Yeah, no question. And I do think Colorado has diversified too.
Yes.
Actually, I thought Pierre-Edouard Bellemare was a really good pickup for them.
I think Kadri is a number two center.
Kadri is, obviously a no-brainer, but I think Bellemare there is adds another dependable guy you can put in a million situations.
Yeah, and Donskoy.
Yeah. I mean, this is now a team like where we're talking about Colorado that has potential to get to the Stanley Cup if they get good goaltending. They have potential.
And I do like what the Sabres have done. So those two additions, they add Colin Miller, which I think he's locked up for 3 more years at under $4 million. I think he's a good defenseman. I think they'll utilize his, he's more of an offensive defenseman. And that's what I guess ran him into trouble with Gerard Gallant in Vegas. So now they have him and they have Ristolainen and they have Montour on the right side. So their defense is a little stronger. Russ, I think it comes down to their goaltending, and I'm not impressed with Hutton and Ullmark.
No, I agree. I don't know what it is about Ullmark. I mean, he showed more promise a couple of years ago. He is young. I still want to say he's 22, 23.
Yeah, 23, I think.
So you got to give another year for him. And who was the other player you mentioned?
Hutton Carter.
Yeah, Hutton's a weird one because he's got to literally play better than he did last year. If he doesn't, they're not going to make the playoffs again. Just that simple. Well,
remember, Hutton was the goalie during the 10-game winning streak.
I know.
They won 7 or 8 of those games in overtime. It was like everything went right. And that's the thing. It's like, every team has streaks like that during the season, and they won 10 in a row, and they were at the top of the league in December, at the beginning of December. And that wasn't the real Sabre team, and maybe the team that finished 27th overall and had one of the worst records in the second half wasn't the real Sabres team. But we'll see. I'd like to see what Kruger does with this group. I think they've improved their talent a little bit, but I'm still wondering whether there's going to be a Ristolainen deal, and maybe it happens during the season, maybe it doesn't happen at all.
Well, I just don't think there's a rush for it.
No. I think we know that Kruger was brought in to basically give everybody a second chance. Okay, now Kruger is here. Ristolainen, let's see what they can get out of him. They've re-signed Zemgus Girgensons. Let's see if we can get
a little questionable. Like, they must feel they can redeem him in some way, or they just love the guy. Like, he's just one of those guys that they just like having around.
I think there's a bit of redemption in there. I mean, I think they see the physical tools.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, we just have to find somebody who can get through to him. I mean, the only coach that got through to Girgensons was Ted Nolan.
Well, Girgensons will be the Nail Yakupov guy to crack for
right.
And he did get 14 goals. Kruger did out of Nail Yakupov. So if he could get double-digit goals out of Girgensons, that would be great because he hasn't had that since 2015. It's literally unbelievable if you think about the talent that we thought this guy had. He was 14th overall, and I don't ever hold that against anybody, as you know.
Right.
But in 6 years, he's only got 49 goals.
Right. He hasn't really made any kind of mark since Nolan was the coach here. He's declined. Yeah. He was supposed to be possibly a center, and then they moved him to the wing, and now his effectiveness has really dissipated over the last few years. So, I mean, yeah, it's a reclamation. Yeah, it's a reclamation project. It really is.
Yeah.
All right. You spotted a comment from Carlo Koliakovo, who I'm friendly with, who is a morning host on TSN 1050 in Toronto, former Leaf, former St. Louis Blue. And there was a comment regarding the NBA style of free agency as opposed to the NHL.
Yeah, he likes it, and I don't. And I'll tell you what the differences are. Now, there are some things the NHL could adopt, like a luxury tax. Like if they adopted a luxury tax like the NBA has to go along with the cap, that would be a good thing, because then teams who are drafting and developing and then worried about signing their guys because they have too many guys would be able to do it. They just have to pay that price, and it goes into revenue sharing, right? That's fine. The part that I don't like about the NBA is these players are choosing exactly where they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Teams are powerless to it. Golden State has officially, after 5 years, their run is over. Doesn't matter who's on the team now because they've been dismantled overnight.
Well, they're taking a step back. I mean,
Toronto was dismantled overnight. There's no way they're going to ever win the championship this year. They have no chance.
Well, yeah, and see, that's what I think, and I don't know if it was in response to what happened with Kawhi Leonard on the weekend, but it makes sense because, I mean, let's just say, I mean, the Raptors general manager had to know going into this situation that more it was a one and done. So he went in with his eyes open, and it was the best case scenario. They won a championship. Now, and I'm not trying to be cruel here, but honestly, without Kawhi, they go back into almost anonymity and mediocrity because they don't have a star player. Kyle Lowry is their best player. Siakam, a couple other younger players. I mean, they're taking a step back, and it's unfortunate because if Kawhi would have stayed there. But to your point, Kawhi, to stay there, apparently wanted to arrange a trade to get Paul George from Oklahoma City to the Raptors, which means basically Kawhi is your co-general manager with Mr.
Yeah, and that's these kinds of things bother me, and even though there's a cap, even the players can figure a way around it, and I don't like that. And so I do like the cap the NHL has, but I would add the luxury tax. But with Koyakovo, it's just I just don't like the way players move around. I don't like the max contracts that have to get handed out to players that don't deserve it. I think that's a bad thing too that exists in the NBA that doesn't exist in the NHL.
Well, I see. I would agree with him on some points. I've always been in favor of some sort of veteran exemption or Larry Bird exemption in the NHL, so that would allow, say, the Leafs to have retained Patrick Marleau without a cap penalty. But they had to trade him, and there's been other instances of other veteran players who just had to go. Corey Perry had to go from Anaheim because they couldn't afford. He wasn't worth the $8.6 million any longer, and they had to get rid of the contract for them to sort of move on. I'm in favor of that. I'm also in favor of a more flexibility in terms of a luxury tax, or even more retention than 50%, because I think that promotes movement. And the one thing, I'm sorry, maybe I'm guilty because I work for Hockey Buzz, and trade deadline and the draft are the two most important times in terms of trades. I want trades. I want there to be flexibility. The deadline this year, I mean, what are these teams going to have to work with? Everybody, other than 3 or 4 teams who have $20 million in cap space, everybody's up against it. Everybody's like 5, 6 million.
Think about this. Last year, there were 32 players in the NBA with max contracts. 32. So you look at those max contracts and you say, okay, Mike Conley, he just got traded. He shouldn't have been making $30 million a year, no matter how good a point guard people think he might have been.
And honestly, I'm so out of touch with the NBA now that I don't even know who that guy is.
Okay, and he's a pretty good point guard.
Yeah, I know who Kevin Walker is. I know who Kevin Durant is. I know who Paul George. I don't know Mike Conley. I just don't know him.
Enes Kanter for New York should not be making $18 million.
Yeah.
Drummond for Detroit should not be making $25 million.
Yeah, Enes Kanter better not go back to Turkey.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. And he's a decent player, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But he's not worth that money. So here, like Andre Drummond, perfect example. So I just said he makes $25 million. He gets 17 points and 15 rebounds a game. Okay.
That's a good player. That's corn. You know what that is? That's cornbread Maxwell back in the South.
Yeah. But it's not worth that kind of money. So that's why you don't want to see that happen.
And that, by the way, guys, that was his name.
Oh yeah, Cornbread was his name.
Cornbread was it, or I mean, it wasn't. That was his nickname, but he called himself Cornbread.
Yeah, he had a different Vernon. Was it Vernon?
Yeah, or Cedric or
Cedric. Yeah. But if you go back to the NHL now and we look at teams, a couple of years ago, if this were NBA rules, you probably have Ristolainen on a max contract.
Right. I mean,
as an example.
I don't know how. And see, the thing is, I don't think that the NHL is going to go this direction because it's tied to 50% of revenue. It's tied to hockey related revenue. So I think they're not going to stray away from that. And anything in terms of an exemption is going to be a sign that the big market teams, they're going to use the exemptions, but the small market teams are not. But honestly, I mean, if the big market team in Major League Baseball, if the Yankees want to spend $200 million, or the Red Sox or the Dodgers want to spend $200 million, the beneficiaries of that are the Royals and the Pirates, because they get that revenue from revenue sharing, and it fills their pockets. So what is the problem?
Yeah. So actually, Adam said, "Hey, Zemgus is a Buffalo player, a hard worker. So is a bartender. But at some point, you got to get a little more out of him."
Yeah, no. I mean, if he doesn't improve on what he's done the last couple seasons, then there was $1.6 million wasted.
Yeah.
But they're giving him another chance because they see talent there, and they want, I mean, it's a no.
Guy works the jackhammer down the street. You don't want to give him $1.6 million, do you?
No. If it's me, I'll take it. Okay. Now you had a note here about Philip Broberg.
Yeah, Philip Broberg is going to go and play in Sweden this year, and not for the AHL, not for the SHL. It's for Allsvenskan, that league.
The second level league.
Second level league. And there's been all this blowback because he didn't want to join Hamilton in the OHL. And it's like, listen, the best thing you could do for a prospect is to put him where he is comfortable, where he feels comfortable, where the team feels comfortable, and you let him develop. If that's his developing starting point, that's what it is. If he didn't like the setup in the OHL, you don't put him there. You don't want to do that to somebody. There's already question about the kid because he switched positions, right? He was a forward. Now he's a defenseman, and now you're going to do that to him? No, I think the Oilers are doing the right thing here.
I mean, ideally, what they probably should try to do is, whatever team, like for example, a few years ago, Modo was relegated to the second division in the SHL, and I know William Nylander was on Modo when they were in the SHL at the top level. And I think that was a factor in terms of him coming over and playing for the Marlies because they wanted him. He wouldn't be challenged by playing in the second division. That's the whole thing. So I mean, if they could get his SHL team that owns his rights to trade him to a team that's in the SHL at the top level, so he can be challenged and he can,
It'll happen when he's ready. You know what I mean? Like, that's when it'll happen. If he comes into the league at 22, so be it. I mean, it doesn't matter where he's
I mean, what's behind this.
I know.
Behind this is the anxiousness of the Edmonton Oilers. He's a defenseman. I mean, they were trying to say, well, Evan Bouchard's definitely going to make the team next year. Well, you don't know if he's going to make the team this year.
We think
Do you really want to rush a 19-year-old defenseman because your defense sucks?
No, but again, I think with Broberg, this is the right thing for him. And I think that's the most important thing because, again, you don't want to get into a situation where a guy's, look at O'Brien with Philly. Now he's going to the BCHL, but he's actually sent in a hope and a prayer, hoping to get into BU this year, even though he transferred. He's trying to get an exemption. That almost never happens in NCAA hockey. So most likely he's going to be headed out to the BCHL. Like that's, and that's going from college hockey to the BCHL, and he'll probably go back to college hockey. And one day the Flyers fans hope to see him. That's just, again, he probably shouldn't have played college hockey last year. That's the reality.
And I mean, you could make the same case. I mean, because we've heard the talk about Wahlstrom, with the Islanders, and how he really didn't benefit from playing in the NCAA, and now I believe he's going to end up playing with Bridgeport this year. I know he signed his ELC, so he'll
be in Bridgeport, and he might be in Bridgeport for 2 years because he has to learn how to play a defensively responsible game before having a prayer to play for a Barry Trotz. And that's, but again, yes, college hockey was not for him. I watched Wahlstrom play. Didn't look good. Didn't look like the same player. Obviously was worried too much about defense. Now, in the AHL, he's still going to have to worry about defense. He is a big guy, so he'll like levying hits, but he's got to round out his game. And so for people that thought he was on the fast track, he's just on the regular prospect track now. He's just playing in the AHL because he had a bad time in college hockey, and you can't really transfer. So this is the Islanders' way of patching this up. They didn't put him in the AHL because he's better than most college hockey players, because that's not true yet.
Yeah, and if it was a situation like Jeremy Bracco a few years ago where he wasn't old enough to play in the American Hockey League, and he ended up playing in, I think, Kitchener, and then ended up playing, I think, for Windsor when they won the Memorial Cup. That would have been an option, maybe moving him to the Ontario Hockey League. But if Wahlstrom his birthday is before December 31st, and he turns 20, then he's old enough to play in the AHL. And I'll leave it up to Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders to determine what's the better course of action with Wahlstrom.
Now, the interesting thing, Joe Morello says, hey, he felt like Noah Dobson was the better pick over Evan Bouchard. Yeah, I had him higher ranked too. But Edmonton picked out Evan Bouchard because they loved his skating and he already had a pro body. So my feeling is they felt like he was at a quicker ticket to get to the NHL than Dobson, because we all looked at Dobson and said, yeah, he's going to take 2 or 3 years to put on the muscle.
Yeah, he was a beanpole at the draft combine. I mean, you could see that. I think he was like 6 or 6'1", but he was really, really thin.
I think he's like 6'3".
Okay, maybe, yeah, but he was right. But he was really rail thin.
Oh, yeah. I don't even think now. Let's see what he weighs in at now. I mean, Noah Dobson.
I think he was probably in like the 170s or something like that.
I think it was a little more. I think he was like 180 something. Right now, he was at 179 at the time.
Okay.
Let's see what he is now. He is listed 183.
Okay.
At 6'4". So, yeah, it's going to take a little while. He's more of a project to build up his body, not as a player. He's going to be a terrific player. So that's the difference.
Okay, couple things here, and we'll take some questions in the chat at the end. You had a note here about the Sabres and Penguins playing at the Pagula Arena in Penn State in a preseason game. It's one of the Sabres' 4 home preseason games.
Yeah, I don't know the date of it. Let's see.
It's early on. It's like September 20th or 21st, something like that.
September 16th.
16th. Okay, it's
I think
it's probably the first one then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing though, because that's something where now he could drive some revenue to that arena, open up those fans and that fan base, maybe to the Sabres, although they're probably still Flyers fans, but you never know. And the Penn State dynamic is kind of cult-like and weird when it comes to people walking around the campus. So you never know. If they see the Sabres there, they might all of a sudden become fans, or they might become Penguins fans because that is close enough to get.
I mean,
Pittsburgh there too. So
State College is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I've been there. It's just like right in the middle of the state, basically halfway between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. I mean, I don't know. I think it's more the fact that the game is being played there because the name of the arena is Pagula Arena, and
sure.
And that's fine.
To branch out the Sabres, I think this was smart by Pagula to do it. It's a brand new. Well, it's not brand new now. It's a couple years old arena, and I haven't been to it yet, but I'm excited to see it one day. And so, why not have an NHL game there? I think it's cool. A preseason game.
A few Canadian / Leaf related items here we'll just touch on, and then like I said, we'll take some questions. Steve Simmons in his column on the weekend reported that, and I had heard this from another reporter previous to this, that Nazem Kadri, before the trade to Colorado, had blocked a trade to go to the Calgary Flames.
Right.
The trade would have been, and it's funny because
according to Steve Simmons, right?
Well, there was also confirmation of this from another reporter in terms of what the deal was, but I sort of guessed at what it would be, and I pretty much hit it on target, because if you look at the formula of what the Leafs got from Colorado, they were looking for a center to replace Kadri and a defenseman, and the deal supposedly with Calgary was Connor Brown and Kadri for Mark Jankowski and TJ Brody. And TJ Brody, I believe, is only under contract for another year, like Tyson Barrie is.
Yeah.
I actually think the Colorado deal is better. I like Kerfoot more than Jankowski. They're different type of players, but I like
different. I think that one could be a wash in the long term because they are different kind of players. But it's funny. It shows how much TJ Brody's fallen. I would take Barrie over him right now.
And I think TJ Brody is a left shot who plays the right side.
Yeah.
So
I mean, some guys do that fine.
Right, but we know Babcock and how he is in terms of left right. I mean that So other interesting little news, and it's sort of picked up a little steam over the last couple days with all the Sportsnet cutting of significant, veteran people like Bob McCowan, who's a longtime host of primetime sports in Canada, and Doug McLean from the Sportsnet broadcast. There was some speculation, and Steve Simmons reported about it, that Don Cherry might not be back. That now Cherry said he had via Twitter, he came out, and I know he doesn't tweet, but one of his assistants does, and said he'd been assured that he's coming back for another season. But I mean, I can't imagine that there are many personalities at Sportsnet that are paid more than Don Cherry. So if they're looking to cut salary, that might, and he is 85 years old, and he is a divisive. I personally still enjoy his first period intermission stuff, but I know there are some people who don't like the sort of the innuendo that he talks about European players and some other things. But I don't know. I mean, do you think? I'm not sure if we've seen the last of Don Cherry, but it may not be much longer. He is 85 years old.
I think this might be the last of them. They cut McCowan, right? I mean, he was younger, but a very popular guy. Why wouldn't they cut Don Cherry at this point?
Yeah, and I know that this has sort of been hinted at and joked about, or hinted and just made reference to, but I think that they found their replacement for Don Cherry. I think Brian Burke is going to be the replacement for Cherry.
Yeah, I again wouldn't be shocked if they don't bring back Don Cherry.
Yeah,
they don't want to pay the price because they can get Burke for half the price.
Yeah, Yeah. The other thing is,
Brian, I'm not trying to negotiate his contract for him.
No, and it's like I want him to stay as long as he wants to. But I mean, the reality is that Sportsnet is taking a bath in terms of, the NHL contract, and it's funny. Everybody's expecting the NHL to get a boatload from the U.S. networks when the contract comes up in a couple years. Well, I don't know whether they're going to get a boatload from the Canadian networks after Sportsnet. I think Sportsnet was like $5.2 billion or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be an appetite to re-up for that kind of amount, and the corresponding add to hockey-related revenue from the U.S. contract, you might see a decrease because of the Canadian contract.
Yeah. So it's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah.
Try and save money, though. End of the day, it just seems like they're slashing. It doesn't matter who it is.
Right. Another thing, what happened to that Mitch Marner offer sheet?
It's coming, Mike.
Oh, yeah. It's coming. Like the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just, and I'm not casting aspersions on the.
I've seen a lot of GIFs and memes that must mean it's going to happen.
I'm not casting aspersions on the reporters that reported it. They were told something and they reported it. That's their job. I just believe that this is coming from one side of this negotiation. That happens to be the Marner camp, because they have. I think that last week, when that rumor came out, it was in the midst of the Kawhi situation in Toronto. They wanted to keep Marner's name out there. And honestly, I think as the days and days go by over the summer, that the chance of Marner garnering an offer sheet from a team is less and less. I reported about this yesterday. Elliot Friedman said on Friday that he had been told that an NHL team was willing to offer an offer sheet to Marner, but they wanted what he called big term, and I'm assuming that means 6 or 7 years.
Yeah,
that only makes sense, because if you're going to risk 4 first-round picks, you want him for as long a term as possible.
Yeah,
and the Marner camp said no, that they're looking for shorter term, which tells me they are not serious about an offer sheet unless it's sort of like Aho and Carolina. That was perfect for Aho. He was getting lowballed. Carolina wanted him on an 8-year deal.
Yeah.
He didn't want an 8-year deal. He wanted the shorter term, so he got a team like Montreal to basically give him everything he wanted on a 5-year deal, and now he gets to turn UFA at 26. Marner ideally wants probably a 3 or 4 year deal where he's 1 year away from UFA or walks to UFA, and then hits the big market, hits the big money again at 26. Well, I don't think the Leafs would have a problem with signing him for 2 or 3 years on a bridge deal. He's just not going to get $10 million for a bridge deal, and that's probably where the battle is going to be fought over the next couple months.
Yeah. All right. So, are we going to go to questions?
Yeah, go to questions.
All right. So, Thomas is asking me, will all the games be played at Nassau Coliseum next year? Has he heard anything? I've not heard anything.
I thought it was half and half. I thought it was half and half again.
I think that's what it's going to be, but I don't know if that's been fully determined yet.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it's going to be. But, Arthur Staple did report that the LIR Belmont Station presser was postponed. And that was so again, they don't even have that worked out yet. I know they've gotten everything approved. That was all that was set to be approved. But like so many people tell me and who live on the island, until there's shovels in the ground and deals have been signed, who knows? And so now the statement for the arena is supposed to be next week.
Okay. So if you're a fan of the Honda Ridgeline pickup truck, you will see it again next year, folks.
Yeah. So now it was supposed to happen today, and now I see this guy Ken Torres is putting up the report that says next week for the project. So everything keeps getting pushed back. Like I said, I expect Nassau Coliseum to still be the home of the Islanders, at least maybe for the first couple of months of that 2021-22 season. until the new place is ready, because I don't think it'll happen on time.
And if you don't think that has an effect on the Islanders and their willingness to sign,
everything. It has an effect on everything.
Right, their willingness to sign somebody to an offer sheet, you're lying to yourself, because right now I think they have about the mid sixes in salary cap space. Now, they can put Andrew Ladd on LTIR. They could, but are they going to put themselves in cap jail, give up 4 first-round picks, and then have to deal with the fact that Matthew Barzal is a restricted free agent next summer?
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you right now, if they offer sheeted somebody like Rantanen or Point or Marner, and the other team didn't match, and that guy's on the books for $12-13 million, Barzal's getting offer sheeted next summer. No doubt in my mind.
I mean, he might.
Unless he wants to stay on Long Island, unless he doesn't want to hit, because they won't be able to afford him.
Yeah. Joe's telling me that there's 21 games at the Coliseum confirmed. He said that Staple corrected himself. Well, there's a lot of confusion not about the approval, because we know the approval happened, but about when there's going to be a press conference, Joe, because last week on Twitter, it was supposed to happen this week, and now it's next week. So this is just normal stuff. So you could talk about whatever you want and say that, people are correcting themselves because it's all fluid. Nothing is ever carved in stone in this situation. But the one thing I will tell Thomas, because, again, I think he's wrong about something. He said that he didn't think that the Metro would be very good this year, and so it'll be easier for maybe a team out of the Atlantic to make the playoffs. I kind of have to disagree. I see the Rangers have gotten better. Mm-hmm. I see the Flyers have gotten better. I see the Devils have gotten better.
I think Columbus and the Islanders have gotten worse, or at least stayed about the same.
They've stayed about the same, but if there's anything, but again, if Columbus shows anything and the Islanders show anything, I would have to disagree with Thomas, because I think it's going to be pretty competitive. Now, we'll see. We'll see how that all shakes out. I mean, I could be wrong about that. Hang on, I opened like 12 windows accidentally. You know how like when you move the
yes.
And that's what I did. All right, so let's see. More questions. Joe asked if I thought the Rangers were a playoff team. I can't tell you yet, Joe. It's too early. All right.
I think I'll go on a limb. I think they'll be in it. I think they'll be like Montreal this year, within either make it or within a few points. I think.
Yeah, they definitely will be in that mode for sure.
Yeah.
I can't go much further than that right now. Matt asked, what are my thoughts on Rubstov? I heard he was a man amongst boys at Dev Camp. Could he be a dark horse to make the Flyers out of camp? Yes, all that's true, but he's played like 17 pro games.
Right. Injury problems.
Yeah, he has to play like 30, 40 games at the AHL level with no injuries and have a big year for him to get called up. If they do anything other than that, it's just silly. So I would not do that anyhow. Let's see.
If you asked the question earlier, why don't you just repost it so Russ doesn't have to go way, way back in the
yeah.
It's easier that way.
It is easier that way. Still looking.
Yeah, just while you're looking up questions here, there has been no hint of any progress on any of the fronts when it comes to the RFAs. Rantanen, Point, Kachuk, McAvoy, Provorov, Werenski, Marner.
Yeah.
We're in a freeze in July.
No, we're definitely in a freeze in July. There's no question. And somebody had asked before, is there anything on Dzingel or Ferland? There's nothing. Gardner, nothing.
Yeah, I'm a little. Well, I think those will happen fairly soon because Dzingel had a career year, and maybe the indication is, and I keep hearing, well, Gardner is willing to take a discount and a short-term deal to come back to Toronto. It's not happening. The only way that's happening is if Marner signs, and then we know how much they have to work with. They will not sign Gardner.
That could be why he's hanging out there. Maybe he has hopes of that.
Right. They will not, and that's the other thing. They have money, and this will be referenced many times between now and the end of next year. They have 3 unrestricted free agent defensemen in Muzzin, in Barry, in Cece, 1 restricted free agent in Dermott. If they signed Gardner to a 1-year deal, then he would just be added to that group. There's no stability in terms of long term. Now, there's a willingness on the Leafs to bring Gardner back because they like him, because he's popular in the room. That's fine. I just can't see him taking a 1-year, $3 million contract when I'm sure there are deals out there.
No, but I will say this. Did we see Wayne Simmons taking a 1-year, $5 million deal? No.
Well, yeah, but he maxed out on the money.
I know, but we didn't see that coming. We didn't.
No, we didn't see that coming. But I think Russ, I said from the outset, from after the season, that Simmons was ripe for a 1-year deal because after last year he had to prove that he hadn't lost it.
But I still didn't think he was going to make $5 million. I'm not shocked that
that's
$5 million was surprising.
No, that is completely a symptom of the fact that New Jersey had almost $30 million in cap space and had to get to the cap floor.
Right.
So that was a benefit there, and he gets to play with either Taylor Hall or Hugh.
No, I'm just kidding. Bill C asked if I did a review of the draft, and there's a team that I thought did really well in the draft class. I didn't do a review of the draft. I'm not one of these guys that goes with draft winners and losers. I wait 3, 4, 5 years. What the hell was that?
I don't know. My phone.
Oh, okay. I wait for the time for that, but I will tell you. Give me 1 second, I'm pulling it up because I don't have everybody's draft memorized, but there was definitely a few that I liked. So if my computer will
you liked Detroit. You liked Seder.
Yeah, Detroit was definitely one of them because of Seder and Cider, and because of
you say Seder, I say Cider.
Yeah, and Master Tsunomi. Now I can't tell you it was great all the way through, but I could tell you that those 2 picks I know very well and are really good. But they made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 picks. And they took guys from Sweden juniors and from prep schools that I don't know. AJHL, Russia, they really went all over the place. But I like those first 2 picks that they made for sure.
And that's why it's more logical and realistic to look back 4 or 5 years and then review the draft, because even people who know what they're talking about, you don't know how these players are going to develop over the next 2 or 3 years.
I'll give you 2 others that I like though. I liked Colorado's with Owen Byram, Alex Newhook, and Drew Hillison.
Yeah,
as their first 3 picks. I thought that was really good. Again, they shouldn't have been picking there, but they did.
Right.
And the fact that they have a good team now just and makes them that much stronger as an organization.
And by that trade, they've set themselves up. Now they have Byram, Makar, Girard, Zadorov is still relatively young. Their defense, which was a big weakness a few years ago, is now a strength, so much so that they could trade Tyson Berry with a year left in his contract and replace what they had in Matt Duchene as a second-line center with Kadri. So Sakic really has, made some really deft moves, and they're in a really good place going forward.
Everybody talks about the Flyers draft, but I think one that went under the radar was the Rangers draft. Now, Kakko obviously is a no-brainer. Matthew Robertson on defense for Edmonton had an injury-plagued year, but has a lot more potential than what he showed last year. He knows it. We all know it. So that's a big thing. Zach Jones is a really good defenseman, and that's a guy who, again, I think they got him in the 3rd round, and he could be a second-pairing defenseman possibly. That's the best case scenario for him. So also Carl Hendrickson looked really good internationally. That's a guy who right now is pretty young too. He's a center. They got a center in the third round. He's not a first or a second line center, I don't believe. But you need third line centers in this league too. And they're going to need a third line center, and he is a playmaker. And so just imagine if that pick does work out and he's a third line center. Now he's 5'9", 175. I get it. But you know what? I think it's a good roll of the dice. Last year in the under 18s, he had 9 points in 7 games. So I think I liked what they did too.
Okay. Any more questions?
Hold on. David Till, can I do a review of the 2015 draft then? Well, here's what I'll do. Just to make David happy.
Connor McDavid A+. Jack Eichel A.
Hold on. I know. I wish my computer was a little faster today. Hold on. Keep occupied for a minute, Mike. I got it.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So what I'll do is this. I will look at the first round and say, I still, even though he went third overall, I still have faith in Dylan Strome as an NHLer, by the way.
Yeah, and after last year with Chicago, this is the thing. He is
yelling bust. He is nothing close to that.
Yeah, I'd give him a B- right now, but the thing is, he's found his niche. He's a number 2 center behind Taves.
Yep.
I mean, after what he did in Arizona or didn't do in Arizona, that is acceptable. And number 2 centers are very valuable. So I think Marner's an A+.
Yeah. I mean, and I still think Provorov's an A. I think the biggest upside now of any pick in that top 10 was Timo Meier. I think that was a really adept pick.
Yeah.
I remember I liked it at the time. He scored 30 goals this year. So that's, for San Jose, that's an A+.
I think New Jersey has a right to be sort of disappointed with Zacha at this point, but there's still something there.
So I won't totally kill him yet. Look, with the Boston picks, we love DeBrusk. I liked him then. I like him now. I don't think Senyshyn's going to be that good of an NHLer, but he might make it. I don't know if Zaboral ever makes it. But
I think the worst pick of the top half of the first round was Gurianov from Dallas.
I don't think that yet. I want to see a little more of him because he does have great speed.
Well, I'm saying as of right now.
As of right now, yes. But I'm not going to say that yet. And even Krause, I think, could show us a little more. So
maybe Zaboral, if Zaboral doesn't pan out, but defensemen take longer to mature.
I'm not putting much hope. The best pick of the top 25 was Brock Besser by far, though. Like, if you want to say best, most upside, they got him 23rd. He has 55 goals in the last 2 years. Like, if you want to talk about good drafting, man, that's good drafting. Nobody in Vancouver could ever complain. And I still think there's tremendous upside in Colin White. He just has got injury after injury.
Well, he'll get his opportunity this year because he's going to have plenty of playing time if he doesn't get hurt.
Also, and I know I had him ranked higher, last one, Shabbat at 18 is just tremendous. Like that pick will go down as an all-time pick. He had 55 points last year, which is exactly what I thought he could be. 14 goals, and he might be able to be a 65-point guy now. He's gotten that good. And his team gets better.
And the only player who hasn't played in the NHL so far from that draft is not a failure because he's a goaltender, and Samsonov probably will be the Capitals starter in 2 years.
Yeah. Just think about this from the standpoint of Shabbat. Last year, he was third on his team in scoring. When Stone and Duchesne got traded, he was the top scorer.
Yeah, and just one other point here. 35th overall, Sebastian Aho.
Yeah, that's just a tremendous pick. That could be the best pick of the draft.
Yeah. So
Barzal was a great pick too, Joe. I get it. But we all knew what Matt Barzal was. It's not like that's a big surprise.
Well, Boston didn't know because they passed him 3 times.
Boston didn't know, but we all knew what Matt Barzal was. It wasn't like he's come out of nowhere. I think Aho, we kind of knew on him too, but he wasn't a surprise. Anyhow, all right, so let's see.
One more question.
Yeah, one more question. Of course, people are going to trash Griffin Reinhart. That's fine. He didn't make it. What are you going to do? Okay.
2012, not 2015. So
ESW asks, what would it take to get that Russian out of Vegas? So for Gusev.
That Russian.
I know.
Is Vladimir Putin in Vegas?
Sounds like you're smuggling him across the border.
Well, don't go there.
I think it would take a top goalie prospect. That's what they're allegedly looking for. And so, like the Islanders, you don't have one unless you're trading Sorokin, which you won't do because you don't have a number one after that. So
Garrett Sparks for Gusev, deal.
Yeah. There's certain teams that won't do it. York and the Rangers aren't going to do it because they're hoping he replaced Lundqvist. So I'm saying you have to be a team that has a Gibson at the NHL level and somebody great at the AHL level that they're interested in because they know Marc-Andre Fleury's time is coming close.
Right. And you could say maybe Washington, but Holtby's a UFA after next year.
They're not trading Samsonov for anything.
Right.
And, even the Flyers right now, you can't trade one of those other guys to your 100% on Carter Hart. Right now, you're probably 90% as an organization, but you got to see more. It's just like anybody else. So, you really start breaking it down, and it gets a little harder to come up with a team that could trade them.
Now, maybe a team like Columbus who has a need for offense and a lot of cap space and a couple young goaltending prospects. Maybe they could do that deal, and then you could have Elvis returning to Vegas.
Let me ask you this. This would be kind of crazy, but Florida took Spencer Knight maybe before they knew they could have Bob for sure. They definitely knew Luongo was hanging up, which, by the way, Luongo had a great post today. He said all of a sudden he went from being a fine-tooth athlete to being a guy wearing shorts with elastic, and I just told him congratulations because now he's like the rest of us. But if you think about it, if you trade Spencer Knight, you'll get Gusev. Now, you might hate that trade in 6 years, 5 years, but if you have Bob for 5 years and you get into the Stanley Cup because of Gusev this year or next year.
Well, how good do people think Gusev is?
Really good, Mike. He's really good. He's fast. He's great in the open ice. He's got a terrific shot. It's just a matter of will it all click and will he have someone to click with? If he plays with Barkov, you would have magic. And so, as an example, that might be something they should consider.
Yeah, that's tough though, because Knight was clearly the best goaltender in this draft class, and
I get it, but today, what is more important for Florida?
Sure,
5 years from now, or getting to a Stanley Cup in the next 2 years?
The future is now with them, with Bobrovsky and Quenneville as the coach.
Yeah.
And I actually think they need to improve their defense. Yeah. I don't think Stroman added to that group is enough of an upgrade. It's Stroman, Yandel, Matheson, and Ekblad. So
Andrew Strauss, if you have never watched this show, we have so much love for Mikko Rantanen. There's no point in mentioning him. If people ever watched, I said his rookie. His first year in the AHL when he had 20 goals, I said it was the most quiet 20 goals anybody's ever scored in the AHL.
Here's a clue on how much Russ appreciates Mikko Rantanen. In a hockey pool league that we were both in, he traded Austin Matthews to me in a deal that involved Rantanen. So he thought Rantanen was that good.
Yeah, and he is that good.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Okay. All right. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. Eklund will be contacting us from Yellowstone Park, so maybe Yogi Bear and Boo Boo will be in the background.
I hope you do that.
So for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you.
He's actually smarter than an average bear, though. I don't know.
Michael Agello, thank you.
Oh, a vote of no confidence.
No, I just wanted to shoot
right
here.
No, that was a vote of no confidence for your boss. I got it right here. Oh, that's bad, Mike.
And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.